Good morning, children. Today we will continue from the last part that we had stopped in our last class. So, in the last class, we had started talking about the chapter The Mask. So, till now, we have come to know that this chapter, The Mask, it is an adaptation. Okay, it is adapted, it is collected from the story. The main story is Danger in Darjeeling, and it is written by Satyajit Ray. And also we have come to know that the narrator of the story is being read out to us, the audience. Okay, we are the audience. So the story is being read out to us by this person named Topshi. Topshi is the narrator of the story. So we have also learned along with that the story revolves around the character of Feluda, and basically the protagonist or the main character is Feluda. The story is about how Feluda solves the mystery or this adventurous story where Rajan Babu is given a threatening letter, and who has sent that threatening letter, it is being found out by Feluda, and how nicely or how intelligently, with the help of his intellect and wisdom, he finds the secret out. So, in our last class, we had seen that Rajan Babu, we have learnt about the character of Rajan Babu, that he is a very good natured person. He was living a peaceful, retired life in Darjeeling, and recently he had taken in a paying guest. He had allowed a paying guest to live in his house on the recommendation of his friend. Okay, and the paying guest who was going to stay at Rajan Babu's house was Tinkori Babu. Now, Tinkori Babu, before entering the house of Rajan Babu, he had made sure that Rajan Babu should know about the weakness of Tinkori Babu. Okay, Tinkori Babu had told him about his weakness for cheroot. And in the meantime, what another incident had happened is that Rajan Babu had received a threatening letter by post, and where the words or the message which was there in the threatening letter, that was it was not handwritten, but it was cut out, or it was collected. The words or the letters were collected from newspapers or books, or however this thing can happen, just because to not being able to find out that who is the culprit. And in the letter it was written that be prepared to pay for your sins. Next, we also saw that Feluda, while he got to know about this, he inquired about this to Rajan Babu, and he asked that if he had any doubt on anyone, and if he had any doubt, then why? What was the reason? So in that way, they got three suspects. Okay, that the first suspect was Dr. Phoni Mitra, who used to visit Rajan Babu quite often, because he was the family doctor of Rajan Babu, and also the reason can stand in this way that Dr. Phoni Mitra, he was not such a famous doctor. Okay, he was not such a famous practitioner in the market, and maybe just because he was not famous, so he was not having a proper income, so he might have done this activity so that while Rajan Babu will be threatened by that letter, will get scared by that letter, he would become sick and he will stay at home, and that would give Dr. Phoni Mitra a chance to examine Rajan Babu, and that would cost him some money. Okay, and that's how Dr. Phoni Mitra will be able to get some income. His income can increase. Then the next person who might have visited Rajan Babu, or who can be the culprit, or that means who was suspected, was this person named Mr. Ghoshal. He was an expert in antiques. Antiques means all those old items. Okay, and now what was the relation of this Mr. Ghoshal with Rajan Babu is that Rajan Babu, he had developed lately he had developed an interest in antique pieces, okay, those pieces, those old items. And on the other hand, Ghoshal, he was an expert in antiques. Okay, this was the first reason. Now the second reason stands here is that Tinkuri Babu, he used to think that Ghoshal is a crook. He is a fraud person. Okay, and he didn't trust Ghoshal at all. Why? Because he thought that as per his knowledge, as per the knowledge of Tinkuri Babu, he thought that Ghoshal is a crook. He is a fraud person. And why he is a fraud person? Because he thought that Ghoshal buys all those antique pieces in a very cheap rate and he sells them to the foreigners in a very high rate. So that proves him as a crook. And now, what is the relation between Rajan Babu and Mr. Ghoshal? As because Rajan Babu had developed an interest in these antique pieces. So what was happening? He was collecting all those pieces, and in the return, on the other hand, what was happening with Mr. Ghoshal? He was having a loss, okay, in the antique pieces because those were getting less, more and more. So he might have a motive in sending that threatening letter to Rajan Babu so that while Rajan Babu will get threatened by that letter, he will stay at home and he won't visit to the shop to collect all those items, and also Mr. Ghoshal would be able to get it more and more. Now we'll get to know about the third suspect. Till now we have known till the second suspect. Okay, we have got to know about two people who can be suspected, who could have sent the letter. Now let's see who's the third person. So the third person is, we then came to know, now just check from paragraph number 14. We then came to know about Rajan Babu's son Prabir Majumdar, who was away. Rajan Babu, it seems, had asked Prabir to leave the house when he was caught stealing money from his father's cupboard. Father and son had not been in contact since then. Now, this person can be the third suspect. Who's the third suspect? The own son of Rajan Babu. Okay, his name was Prabir Majumdar. Now, how can he be suspected? How can he be the culprit? So once what happened, Rajan Babu had asked Prabir to leave the house. Why? How that situation led to this serious outcome? Because Rajan Babu had caught Prabir stealing money from Rajan Babu's cupboard. Okay, and then what happened? Father and son got into a fight, or they had a argument between themselves, and since then they had not been in contact, and that's why even Rajan Babu told his son to leave the house. And since then Rajan Babu's son Prabir Majumdar, he was away from the house, he was staying away. Tinkuri Babu was shocked to hear that Prabir was back in Darjeeling, and now the thing had happened that Prabir had come back to Darjeeling. Okay, and this was the message which was given by Tinkuri Babu, because he got to know about it. So Rajan Babu does not know that his son is in town, said Tinkuri Babu, and I don't think he should be told. After all, he's already had another shock, and so that can be the case. It might have happened that maybe because of that past incident, maybe Prabir Majumdar had sent Prabir Majumdar had sent that threatening letter to just scare his father, to maybe take for the thing which he had done. Okay, so he might have done that. And here Tinkuri Babu also, he says that he tries to help Rajan Babu by saying that he already had a shock, so he should not know about it, that Prabir was back in Darjeeling. So Prabir has a motive to threaten his father, interrupted Feluda. So in this way, Feluda also, he doubted that Prabir can also be the suspect. He is the suspect, but Prabir might have also sent the letter. So now in total we have 3 suspects. First we had Dr. Phony Mitra, second we had Mr. Ghoshal, and now the third one we have Prabir Majumdar. Prabir Majumdar and his father Rajan Babu, they had a fight because Prabir Majumdar was found stealing money from his father's cupboard, and then while Prabir was caught red-handed by his father, so they both got into a fight, and since then they had not been in contact. So now Prabir was back in Darjeeling, and that's how Prabir can have a motive in sending the threatening letter to Rajan Babu. So the case had reached the stage where it had 3 suspects but no culprit yet. Suspects means you can have a doubt, okay? You can have a doubt on a person, but you are not sure if the person had actually done it or not. So that's how it means that it had 3 suspects. The doubts were 3, but they were not sure about anyone. Now next what happened? Then something very frightening happened. One morning, we received a message that Rajan Babu wanted to see us urgently, and we rushed to his house. Now suddenly what happened? There occurred an incident. You know, just now we were talking about that Rajan Babu should not be let to know about Prabir's coming back to Darjeeling. And now what happened? Some incident had happened. What was that incident? Let's see. Then something very frightening happened. One morning, we received a message that Rajan Babu wanted to see us urgently, and we rushed to his house. So they got a news, Feluda and Topshi and all, they got a news that Rajan Babu wanted to see them urgently, and so they went to his house. We found him lying down, looking pale and haggard. So in the picture even you can see that the person who is lying down on the bed, he is Rajan Babu, okay, and he is also being examined, if you can see. So we found him lying down, looking pale and haggard. He looked very pale, as if he was very tired, okay, and even in the word meaning also you can see unusually white and tired due to worry and lack of sleep. That means Rajan Babu was tired. We found him lying down, looking pale and haggard. Dr. Mitra was by his side, and if you can see this Dr. Mitra, okay, the person who is checking, this is Dr. Mitra. So he is examining Rajan Babu. We found him lying down, looking pale and haggard. Dr. Mitra was by his side, examining him, and Tinkori Babu was fanning him. So we also have seen that Rajan Babu was lying down, and here by the side Dr. Phoni Mitra was examining him, and this person, the person who is fanning Rajan Babu, this is Tinkori Babu, okay. So examining him, and Tinkori Babu was fanning him. Rajan Babu spoke with some difficulty. Last night after midnight, just the night had begun and the midnight had just been over. Just after that, what happened? If you just see the sentence, it is written with lots of dots. If you can see here, they are written, there are various pauses. Last night, there is a pause. After midnight, again there is some pause. I woke up suddenly and there it was. Face, masked face. Yes, I saw a masked face. It bent over me. It was horrible. Rajan Babu continued, I can't tell you how I spent the night. Now, by reading out this line itself, you could have understood by now that the incident was not a happy one. It was a shocking one. Plus, Rajan Babu was extremely scared by this incident. So, the pauses in between of all these words, last night, then there is a pause. After midnight, again there is a pause. So there are various pauses you can find in this sentence. So here all this means that Rajan Babu was very tired to even speak up. He could not speak properly because he was extremely shocked and scared. So he is he's narrating out the story to the viewers or to those persons who were sitting by the side. Okay, so Rajan Babu is telling about the incident which happened last night after the midnight, that he woke up suddenly, and while he woke up, just at his front, while he opened his eyes, he saw that there was a face. Okay, there was a masked face. It was wearing a mask. Yes, I saw a masked face. It bent over me, and while a person is lying on the bed, you just can imagine how the situation is, and that means that person, the another person, was bending over Rajan Babu. Yes, so it bent over me. It was horrible, and the masked face which Rajan Babu had seen just over him, that was horrible. Rajan Babu continued, I can't tell you how I spent the night. Take it easy, said the doctor. You need complete rest. And as the doctor was examining him, so he advised him to take complete rest so that he won't get hyper, or not to get hyper, because he needed rest. Dr. Mitra, Feluda said suddenly, did you go out last night? Your jackets got a streak of mud on it. If you just look very closely the jacket of the doctor Phony Mitra, you would see in your book that on the jacket you can see there is a stain. You will find a stain, sort of stain is there on the jacket of Dr. Phony Mitra. So Feluda asks him that, did you go out last night? Because your jacket's got a streak of mud on it. There was a stain of mud on the jacket of Dr. Phony Mitra. So what he replies is, yes, I did, to see a patient, replied Dr. Mitra. So Dr. Mitra replied that, yes, I went, but to see a patient. What did the mask look like? Asked Feluda after the doctor left. Now the doctor's job was over. He examined him and he left. So after the doctor left, Feluda asked to Rajan Babu that how was the mask looking like? It was like one of those you see on the wall there. The mask, he pointed out, was most horrendous. Now what does horrendous mean? It means something very horrible, which seems very scary, very threatening. Okay, it looked horrible. So Rajan Babu, he described, there was on the wall there was a mask hanging, because now you might think that what is this mask? So as we have got to know in our previous discussion that Rajan Babu, he had developed an interest for those antique things, for those antique pieces. So he had collected that mask also, that was also belonging to some antique pieces. That mask also belonged to an antique item. Okay, so it was like one of those you see on the wall there. The mask, he pointed out, was most horrendous and looked very horrible. Okay, Tinkori Babu came in after seeing the doctor off. He, this happens, no, that once a doctor gets into your house or gets in to check any of the patient, so just for seeing him off to the door, a person just joins him, So Tinkori Babu went with the doctor outside to just see him off, and then after that he returned and said to us, I'm sorry, but I have to return to Calcutta today. I'm sorry, but I have to return to Calcutta today. Now, why suddenly he had to say this? We'll get to know it, but later we will realize this. I hope you have also read this story, so you might have realized by now. Anyways, so Tinkori Babu came in after seeing the doctor off and said to us, I'm sorry, but I have to return to Calcutta today. Now, what was the reason? Why was he going back? I tried to change my ticket, but they said I can't get a booking for another 10 days. Now, he gave a reason that he had to go to Calcutta and that's very urgent. He could have gone some 10 days later, but what would happen is till 10 days he won't be getting any ticket. So that's why he had to go urgently. But before I leave, I will inform the police. Rajan Babu needs protection because so many incidents had already happened with Rajan Babu, right? So he, as a friend, because Tinkori Babu was a friend and also the paying guest, so he was staying in his house. So that thing was very normal. Okay, it appeared very normal. So Rajan Babu needs protection. That was the basic reason, and so he said that before I go, I'll make every arrangement for Rajan Babu. I'll make sure that he is having enough of protection and he is safe. Felu Babu, you can continue with your investigation. Nobody will object to that. So this is how Tinkori Babu left the place. Left Darjeeling, we can say, and he also told Feluda that you can continue with your investigation and nobody is going to object to you or nobody is going to stop you. Now, Feluda and I decided to stay that night at Rajan Babu's house. We then went out separately on our work for the rest of the day and got back in the evening to find Rajan Babu much better. He showed us to our room. So for that night, as the incident had happened and also Rajan Babu was quite sick because he was very tired, he was shocked, and because of that shock he got sick enough. Okay, and that's why Feluda and Topshi, they decided to stay at Rajan Babu's house. Then so they stayed back at Rajan Babu's house. Now the next morning, because the incident had happened at that midnight, and so obviously the morning had followed, right? So they went out on their work, whatever work they had to complete, they did it, and they came back in the evening. And while they came back in the evening, they found that Rajan Babu was much better than before. His health was much better than before. And to stay, to pass the night, Rajan Babu showed us to our room. Rajan Babu showed Feluda and Topshi the room where they had to stay. I know this is getting quite interesting, but the video is also getting quite longer. So we'll be stopping here and the remaining part will be uploaded in the next video, okay, or in the next class.